everyone, and welcome back to the Sweet Tea series. My name is Ariana Guajardo. A few weeks ago, I think if you saw my last episode, I was at the RPT convention, and now I am back in studio and very excited for today. Today, I'm joined by Ashley B. Cash. She is someone who is dedicated to working on education reform, and today we are talking about a topic we haven't gotten to really on the show, which is financial literacy. And she's also the host of the Ashley B. Cash Show. And my favorite episodes, by the way, is where you start touching on that. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
So again, I know you've done a lot of education reform work for years now. You're also a business leader in your community in the Lubbock area. And also, can I just say thank you for leaving the great state of Texas to come to Austin to hang out with me here?
Well, thank you so much. Lubbock is home and I love it, but it's fun to come down to the capital and get to be in the hustle and bustle and trying to help make good policy for Texans and have some good food. And then I get to return home, which Lubbock is the heart, and best people in the world are there. And of course, my family's there. So,
I never met someone from Lubbock I didn't get along with right away. So I love you guys.
It's so true. I mean, I just think it's, my husband and I moved around a lot for his corporate job, and we've lived in a lot of Texas cities. And we moved back to Lubbock 8 years ago when he decided to retire. And
is he not really good at retirement?
Well, he was 42, so it was a little premature. I made him immediately. I'm like, okay, you get to go be in charge of the ranches, and here's something you can do with our real estate business. And immediately found him some other jobs to do as well. So, but he's a really good man, and so we love it there. I mean, that's where we chose to go back to because of the people.
Right, that's home. And there is that Texas spirit over there, too. So yeah. I totally get that.
Fierce Texas spirit. In fact, you were talking about the personal financial literacy, and there was a busload of 25 people that came down here from Lubbock to testify this week at the State Board of Education for the social studies TEKS and the literary list. And so, I mean, that's how passionate they are about our state and about the children of the state.
Yeah, I'm always impressed by how dedicated people in Lubbock are to making actual change. I remember you guys were one of the first cities to be a pro-life protected
sanctuary city.
Yeah. And it was, I was part of a group at the time called Young Conservatives of Texas, and I know the Lubbock chapter grew huge, and we're knocking at doors for weeks to get to help with that. So, and your community is inspirational.
It is very both the Lubbock County Republican Party is very active, and the Lubbock Area Republican Women. That is probably the biggest conservative organization in the area. But I mean, we've got people involved at all levels across Texas and really the country in politics, and bringing it back to Lubbock, building our policy there in Lubbock for the people, and then spreading it out from there.
Yeah, I'm hoping people closer to the Capitol feel inspired by that, because we were so lucky to be so close to being able to go testify, or even speaking about local city stuff. I always want people to get more engaged on those levels. Yeah. So hopefully people could take something from that.
It's really good. I've been really impressed, because I have I'm from Amarillo. I went to high school and college in Dallas, and then I moved back to Amarillo. Then I met my husband, moved to Lubbock. Then his company moved us to, Kentucky for a year, and then back to Dallas. And sorry, I forgot Midland in there. We were in Midland for 9 years, which is where all three of my boys were born, and then to Dallas. Wow. And then we finally made our way back to Lubbock.
So you're zigzagging everywhere and then to get home.
Well, and at one point in time, I was so grateful that I speak Spanish, because I'd gone from Amarillo to Dallas to Lubbock to Midland. I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to end up in Mexico one of these days.
Okay, well, now I feel more ashamed. My grandma's going to be like, see, she can speak Spanish. Why can't?
I was just speaking Spanish in my Uber on the way here. I love it because I get to practice and brush up on all my Spanish. So, yeah.
The last time I was in Mexico was a few months ago, and that was the first time where I was starting to use it a little bit more and not just freeze whenever I heard it. So I'll get there at some point.
Well, and that happens to me too. If I go over a period of time without using it, then the second I hear it, but it comes back pretty fast, But a funny experience. I was just in Japan with my family for about 12 days, and I was in Japan, and I tried to take I hadn't started soon enough, but like 10 days before we left, I started taking like a Japanese course because I just wanted to be able to say like the basics, like hello, thank you, where's the bathroom,
Right.
all those things. And so I was doing that, and we were very lucky. We had like most of the time we had a guide with us that spoke English, but there were a few times in the evenings where we just go out to dinner that nobody spoke Japan like English, and we didn't speak much Japanese, right? Not enough to get along. And immediately I'd start trying to speak Spanish because it's like my default mechanism,
You're like, another language. Let me go into it.
I would just default into Spanish, and my husband would go, "What are you doing?"
Well, talking about just all the different places you've been in Texas, something that they all have in common is the lack of financial literacy among young people and young populations. And that's something that you've spoken about on your show. It's something that you're working on actively to change in Texas. Let's take that back a little bit. Where does that passion come from, and why do you think that it's something that's an important issue to address?
Well, I would have to go all the way back to my childhood. I am very blessed, and I had great parents, and they were in the oil and gas business and ranching, which are two very cyclical industries, right? They have their real highs and they have their real lows. And as a child, when oil prices and cattle prices were good, we lived high on the hog. We had great trips. We had great presents and things, and it was as a kid, what more could you ask for, right? And I had lots of love, and we were very Christ-centered, and all that was good. But when the markets would crash, it was like we stayed home, we did nothing, cars would disappear and things. And as a child, it was just that roller coaster that I rode was very uncomfortable and frightening at times. And I just knew that I never wanted that for myself. So I knew that I needed to start personally paying attention to financial literacy. Then segue forward to around 15 years ago, and I was starting my real estate investing businesses in Dallas, Texas, once my kids had started back to school full time. And I'd looked at my husband and go, I love them, and I would throw myself in front of a bus for them, but I have to go back to work. Like, I'm about to poke my eyeballs out with a hot poker. And he's like, okay, do whatever you want. And so I started our real estate investing business, and I really started it in the single family homes, trying to flip single family homes. Because, I'd been stay at home and I'd been watching HGTV, and I'm like, I can do that.
And you're getting the itch.
I was getting the itch. And so I started door knocking foreclosure houses in Dallas, Texas. And those people were at the worst place in their life. They were supposedly living the American dream. They had gotten an education, they'd gotten a job, they'd saved some money, and then they'd gone to a bank and asked them how much house could they afford. And I realized that we had failed them. Our system had failed them because we had never taught them how to budget. And they had, at that time, and this was they had gotten mortgages around the 2008, right before the 2008-2009 crash. And they had just gone to the bank and said, how much can we afford? Now, what you need to know is that if you're doing traditional budgeting, your mortgage and the expense of your house should not be more than 30% of your net income. But at that time, there were banks that were giving people mortgages for up to 50% of their gross income. And they just didn't know that they were being over leveraged. And that put them in a position where they were just living paycheck to paycheck. And then all that had to happen was one small thing, whether somebody got laid off, somebody got sick, they got a divorce, and then without the two incomes, they couldn't afford the payments. And so this American dream of home ownership became like a lodestone around their neck, just dragging them into the great abyss. And I'm sure many of your viewers are aware that foreclosure is like the atomic bomb of your credit. Like, it makes it where you almost can't even rent an apartment for 7 years, right? Your credit is destroyed.
Oh, I didn't realize, or even make that connection on how it affected you in renting.
And so, when that happens to people, it's absolutely destructive. And then the next thing that happens is, the sheriff shows up with some day workers, and they just start loading all your stuff onto the front lawn. No boxes, no packing materials, just pulling it out of the house, right? And I was just like, man, we've really failed these people. So that was number one, that I knew there was something wrong with the system. And then having my own children in school, and, that made me realize I really needed to focus on the education system, that it was not the same education that we had received, that it had been very watered down. The teachers were really struggling. There are really great teachers out there. They're amazing, but they're being put in hard positions where they have kids that, with behavioral issues that are staying in the classroom. Luckily, the legislator hopefully fixed that this last session. And then, I also realized that in hiring as a business person, I have several businesses around real estate, oil and gas, and ranching. And I've been having a hard time hiring employees. But when I go out shopping, those kids, they can't count change, a lot of them, right? They can't communicate well. They don't have good critical thinking skills, and they don't have problem-solving skills, which I think are the most basic things that we need to be providing these children. And so the financial literacy, the passion for that started as a child, but then it's kind of grown through my own business experiences and just realizing how few skills, including financial literacy, we're providing to these kids when they graduate high school. Yeah. And then it should scare every Texan, because if we don't give them the skills to take care of themselves, then, we're creating a welfare state. And that is actually what's happening.
And I'm glad you brought up the institutional stuff. And I'm sure 2008 really shook people's trust in institutions because, like you said, they went to the banks, people who are dealing with money, and asking them hey, how much can I afford? So I'm guessing they thought that they could just trust that. And if your education in school didn't teach you that, who else would have shown you, especially at the time?
There's some people that get really lucky and their parents are very proactive and hands-on. And to your viewers, I want to say, parents, you need to be proactive and hands-on, because the state legislature did pass the personal financial literacy bill this last session, the 89th session, which is going to now require a semester of personal financial literacy for every high school student to graduate. But it will not actually apply until the class of 2030. So even though it's coming, and actually I've in Austin this week, with the State Board of Education, and they're trying to pass the TEKS for the personal financial literacy course. It's not going to be a requirement until that class of 2030. And so, but there are online courses that you can get and take, and there are, at a lot of high schools, there are electives and I would encourage all parents to make your child take the elective.
Since you've been more active looking into this, are there more schools that you're saying starting to offer it as an elective?
Well, there are, and because it was
I know
passed,
mine definitely didn't. So
no. And because it was passed, I know the pressure is on this week to pass the personal financial literacy TEKS. And for your viewers, the TEKS, because it took me a long time to learn the acronym, is the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And that is basically what says, at each grade level, this is what you have to know at the end of the year for this course. And so the TEKS is what we're working on now. So that will be all the things that they're required to be taught and to know at the end of the semester.
So what kind of things are we probably going to see in the new TEKS for financial literacy?
So I worked on them a lot. There have been a lot of content advisors working on them. And you're going to have to start off with the basics, defining what are assets, what are liabilities, what is cash flow, what is a personal financial statement.
Or we were even talking about teaching people the difference between gross and net income and understanding those two.
Yes. And so all of the financial vocabulary, but then how to apply it to your own life, right? So there's a part in there about assessing your job and also assessing the lifestyle you want to live and making sure those two things are compatible. And if not, how do you go about getting skills to get a better job or to get a second or third job? Because the reality today is if you want to have any kind of financial freedom, you probably need at least 3 streams of income. And so how do you, stack skills and stack jobs so that you can make more money to afford the lifestyle you want and still be saving so that you can invest for your own future?
I hadn't heard about the need of the 3 streams of income. Can you explain that a little bit, or where that comes from now?
Well, if you do any kind of, so I am a creature of I love learning, and I also can look at people and be like, what are they have a lifestyle I want. What are they doing? What have they done to get there? And when I look at millionaires, I have not found one yet that doesn't have at least 3 streams of income. And if you look at billionaires, there's not one that doesn't have at least 7. And so you start realizing, okay, and then as you make it further through life and you've been through the highs and lows of our economy, and you realize that at different times, different sectors may not be functioning, right? So you start to realize that just as you need to have a diverse portfolio of investments, you also need to have a diverse streams of income so that when one sector is not working, another sector is still paying your bills. Right. And so that's kind of the key to having multiple streams of income, is that you put them in different sectors so that there's always something that where money is coming in so that you can keep affording your lifestyle.
And for those 3 streams, is that like divided among like a household, or what was that? What would that look like for like the average family?
So for the average family, that may look like dad has a job, maybe mom also has a job, and that may be something she does from the home, or she may be in the corporate world. And dad likewise, right? He may work from home, or he may be in the corporate world. And then they have some sort of investments. Maybe they have stocks and bonds. Maybe they have cryptocurrency.
Okay, so that can count as another stream of income. Okay.
Or even they have started investing in real estate. Like maybe they've invested in some private placement memorandums in some apartment buildings, and they've got, an 8% return on their investment every month, right? Or you can today, and it's very easy to do, set up additional streams of income online, right? Create something that you're selling. Like, you've got a skill. What is your skill? How can you monetize it in today's world on the internet, and have people write a class and be selling that, or create a product that goes out even when you're asleep? And that's the real way that I think this next generation is going to benefit, to have a job that gives them eat money, pays all their bills every month, and that allows them to start saving and start investing, and then create online products that they can sell that are being sold even when they're sleeping or when they're working on their other job.
Something that I've been very, I guess, encouraged by with Gen Z and like the rest of my generation is, I think it seems to me like we're very entrepreneurial. But sometimes, and this is like something that you see across generations, people are still living above their means. They think, okay, well, I have this set up, so that means I like deserve like X, Y, Z.
Consumerism.
Yes.
Yes. It is.
Yeah. I think people are lacking the patience sometimes to save before then being able to like reap the rewards of that.
And that was last night when we were working on the teaks, we made sure to add one, consumerism, and define it, and just this like almost what my generation would have called keeping up with the Joneses, right? Needing to show that you had the money. But then we also talked about needing to be able to defer the gratification, right? Most people don't realize how critically important it is to start saving early in your life so that the money that you save has the time to compound. And when I'm out talking with young people, a lot of the times, one of the things I will tell them is I'll be like, hey, have you started a Roth IRA? And they look at me like, what is that? And I'm like, well, it's this really great savings account that once you put the money in that, as long as you're investing in the appropriate things, you won't pay taxes on that again in your life, right? Like, you won't pay taxes on the income that it grows, and you won't pay taxes on it when it's distributed. I'm like, the first thing you should always invest in, if you can, is your 401k, and you should ask your employer if they have a Roth version of your 401k, and if they do, take full advantage of that. Always at least match what your company will match, because you're doubling your money immediately.
And most companies now match, which is like the amazing thing. Yeah.
Yes. And so you should always do that, at least up to the match. And then you should always, if you can, get the next $7,500 into your Roth IRA. If you qualify, it's up to a certain dollar amount, but there's a backdoor loophole. So you can put your $7,500 into your IRA and then move it to the Roth IRA and pay the taxes out of your eat money pocket. And but so
I hadn't heard about that before. Interesting.
And so I start talking to young people about that. And then the next thing that I go to is, it's really important that you start early. And I'm going to give you an example that I know, and these are rough numbers, they're not exact. But if you start at age 25 saving $300 a month, and a lot of people go, I can't save $300 a month. And I'm like, let me tell you this, you may decide to choose to start saving $300 a month. But if you start saving $300 a month, you put it in a Roth IRA, you put it in a standard index fund, something like the Vanguard VU, for example, that historically has had around a 10% return. Based on historical numbers, if you do that every month until you're 59 and a half, you should end up with about $1.6 million.
Wow. But for retirement? Yeah.
Yes. And if because it's in a Roth IRA, every bit of that will be tax-free as long as you've invested it in things that don't trigger you, but which is a whole different conversation. But if you wait till you're 35 to start saving the same $300, and that's just $36,000 you didn't save. $300 times 12 is $3,600, times 10 is $36,000. I have literally had people go, well, I'll just live a year less. And I'm like, no, that's not the way it works. But if you do the same thing at age 35, $300 a month into a Roth IRA, into a standard index fund like the Vanguard VU, based on historical data, you'll end up with $700,000. So that 10 years of not investing early and the $36,000 you didn't invest cost you almost $1 million.
Wow.
And that is the key to compounding, is starting early and giving it longevity to keep rolling and turning over.
And I'm guessing that's why you're so passionate about making sure this is in schools.
Yes.
Because like you said, it all matters about how early you get in.
How early you start.
Right.
Well, and the other thing is this too, because we have not been giving every child financial literacy in high school, the day they turn 18, they are now an adult and they can start earning credit or destroying their credit. And I have seen, unfortunately...
Well, I remember I turned 18 and then suddenly like coming to my house are all of these different credit companies.
Cards.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's worse today because not only do they have the credit cards being sent, but on Facebook, you can just decide to buy it with Klarna and to buy it on payments. And you can even...
Like everything is Klarna now.
You can even finance a pizza.
Wow.
It's crazy. And so it's never been more important that we educate these kids on their credit and how to protect it. Because when you hurt your credit, it takes you a long time to recover from that. And that's just not fair that we haven't been giving them the tools that they need to protect themselves and to make sure that they can have the most abundant life.
Well, that, and then I think it leads to some like poor habits if you're just training yourself. Well, I can get this now and I'll figure it out later versus I'm going to delay now to be able to get it later.
And I think that that's one of the most important things that we put into this financial literacy is those type of things. One, that spark them to want to do the saving because I want to be a millionaire, right? Like give them a goal that gets them excited about doing it, but then also impressing upon them the need to start it early, right? And to avoid the consumerism, avoid the keeping up with the Joneses, avoid going and buying the Louis Vuitton purse or the Gucci wallet, the new car. Like drive that car till the wheels fall off of it, because the average car payment today is $500 a month.
Or I even think about whenever people are getting new cars instead of used cars, whenever they're like, well, even making it such as I am, I am not the kind of person that should be getting a new car right now.
Right. And that's the part about delaying the gratification, right? So that you can have the life you want to have. And the more that you invest early, the better the lifestyle you can have later, which is really when it's really going to matter, when you have the ability to travel, when you aren't tied down with a job at, 5 days a week and kids. Save that money as much as you can now early, delay the gratification so that you can have this really abundant life later and start creating generational wealth for your family. Like, I think that's like, it's a travesty because I run into people my age who don't have this knowledge, right? I run into people all the time who are like, oh, I'm going to start saving next year. And they're making good money, but they're living the abundant lifestyle now, and they're going to be regretting it later, right? Because they haven't started doing the saving and the investing and the delayed gratification now to make sure that they can continue this lifestyle. I mean, how hard is it going to be when you're used to having the nice things in the new car and then you stop working at retirement and you have to decrease your lifestyle because you didn't save and invest enough? And then I don't know a single parent that doesn't want to leave more for their kids. But if you have to use every dollar that you saved and a lower lifestyle simply because you didn't know that you should have started early.
And the other thing we were talking about is the importance of young people knowing this because of Social Security. That is probably not going to be around by the time I'm able to receive it. Like, we're going to just run out of money for Social Security.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say on the outside, we'll be lucky if we have Social Security for 10 more years. If we don't make drastic changes to it. But I'm not counting on it. And nobody out there that's my age, I'm 54. Nobody that's my age or younger should be counting on it.
Like, really? You even think for Gen X that they shouldn't be counting on it?
I don't think so.
I definitely think for millennials and Gen Z, like especially Gen Z, that should not even factor into how you're thinking about planning for retirement.
No. And the earlier that we can get people this this information, the more important. And like one of the first, so I started teaching a financial literacy course at some churches there in Lubbock, just because I was seeing it in my community and I wanted to help, right? And I had young girls in particular coming up to me all the time and being like, what do I do? And I'm like, this is how we need to figure out where you are today. What are you spending? We need to figure out how you can start moving your spending to match with a budget, right? And then what do you want we've got to start teaching these kids goal setting and planning for their future, right? Most of them don't have any idea on how to set goals. If you're not setting goals for yourself, you are wandering through life, right? And I use this example a lot. What is the shortest distance between 2 points?
A straight line.
A straight line. If you only have 1 point, how do you go in a straight line?
You can't.
You have to have the other point, which is your goal for the future. And it's so critically important that we teach kids and adults that haven't been taught this to set goals. And when I say set goals, I'm not talking just about next year or next month. I'm talking about 5 years, 10 years, retirement. How long do you think you're going to live? Set goals for that whole time. And then back from that point, your future, possibly even the last year of your life, back to where you are today. And from this point, financially, how do you get to that point? Because I'm going to promise you that if you're in your 30s, you're going to have to start saving a lot more money per month than you think you are. If you're in your 40s, it's even more, right? And so the earlier that we teach people to goal set, and it's not just financial goal setting, by the way, that's really important for your future because you have to be able to pay your bills. But what's your spiritual goal? What's your physical goal? Like, I don't want to be crippled when I'm 70 and not able to enjoy the life that I'm dreaming of, right? So I've got to keep my body strong. And what is my family goal? Like, what do I want my family to look like? We've started writing mission statements and value statements for our family to guide our family as a group and to make sure that we're passing on our financial knowledge and our business knowledge to the next generation, right? And I fully someday want to have kids, which I hope it's a few more years, kids. I want to start passing that on to my grandkids. And so the knowledge transfer, that's something that you have to plan for as well, because we live in an age where things move fast. And if you're not setting goals of the things that you want to get done, you're going to wake up one day and find that you didn't get them done. And that's what I'm seeing with a lot of people with their finances. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to save one day. But today I'm going to do this. Today I'm going to go and get the new car, or I'm going to get the nicer apartment, or I'm going to get the Louis Vuitton bag. And then all of a sudden they're going to wake up one day and the money's not going to be in their savings account. It's not going to have been invested. It's not going to have been compounded and grown to be the number that they need it to be. And that all goes back to our education system.
So if there's someone who's wanting to learn and figure out like, okay, well, how much can I afford for a monthly rent for an apartment, or like how much should I be spending on like eating out and groceries? Where are some of the places that you think that young people can go to just start getting the basics if they didn't get it in school?
Dave Ramsey has a good program. I agree with him about 90 to 95% of the time. We differ a little bit on, I think that at the same time that you're paying down your debt, you need to also be paying like at least $100 into your Roth IRA and starting to invest for yourself, because there is good compounding and bad compounding. So bad compounding is like credit card debt. It's debt on items that don't make you money. And then there's good compounding, and that is things that actually make you money. I call that leverage. So you can leverage money, get loans to buy assets that make you money. And I call that good debt. But that good debt, good leverage is also when you take money and you invest it, say, in stocks and bonds, and it starts growing and compounding for you, right? And so all those are lessons that we have to learn. I agree with Dave Ramsey 90% of the time. He also believes in no debt ever at all. And I believe in good leverage, in buying assets that cash flow and make you money.
Or like, I even disagree with him on like paying off student loans earlier if it's staying like, if it's like less than 6% and the stock market makes more than 6%. So yeah, but I will say, if someone even did choose to follow that, your life isn't going to be worse. So if you're like in a place of serious debt, it's still better to follow like a Dave Ramsey method than not do anything.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Like I think there's a lot of good beneficial things in Dave Ramsey's class. Barbara Corcoran has a class, I believe. There's some good ones out there, and I would just tell you, you can Google that on the internet.
So a lot of where I started, I'm glad you brought up Google, was Google. So I was like ending college and trying to think, okay, well, what's happening next? And it was figuring out, okay, how much do I think that I can make with this, with my degree as a starting salary? What are the ranges here? Okay, how much can I afford in rent? And you can just Google it, and it actually gives you like the percentage is like it shouldn't be more than 30% of your income.
Right.
Or you should try to aim to invest like I think it was like 20% of your income or And it breaks it down pretty easily.
And I always recommend kids to follow the 50-30-20 rule when budgeting, which 50% should go toward your needs. Okay, now you have to be realistic about what needs are. These are true needs. There is a difference between needs and wants. So 50% goes to your needs, which would be the roof over your head, not the super nice one, the realistic one. The car, not the new one, the used one in good shape. And drive it till the wheels fall off.
Right.
And your utilities, food, things like that, not shopping. And then 30% goes to your wants. That would be the shopping.
That'd be eating out.
Eating out, yes. And then 20% goes straight into savings and investing. And I want to make sure and make that crystal clear because there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I have a bank account with $100,000 in it. Good. But it would be better if you were getting it invested because of inflation. There's this little thing called inflation. And let's say inflation is 3%, which I think it's a little bit higher than that right now. But that means that your money is going to be worth 3% less next year than it was this year because the cost of goods are changing. And so you're going to be able to buy less next year with that same $100,000. So if you're not getting it invested, your money is actually moving backwards. It's worth less next year than it is this year.
Yeah.
And so you must figure out a way to get it invested. So that becomes the next question people ask me. Well, Ashley, where do I start with investing? And there's a lot of stockbrokers and financial planners that you can talk to, but a lot of them have minimums that they take. And so you've got to get to that minimum first. I have come upon an app that I really like that I have been recommending. I have no affiliation with it, but it is called the Acorns app. And you can attach it to your bank account and your debit card, and you can ask it to save pennies of every purchase. And you can also ask it to take out a certain amount every time you're paid. And that amount is going to be based on what you've calculated in your 50-30-20 plan, right? And when you first start this, you may already have expenses that are out of line with the budgeting, with the 50-30-20 rule. And so over the next year or two, your goal will be to start an emergency savings account and then to start transitioning. Like you may have to downgrade your apartment for a little while. You may have to downgrade your car when you have the opportunity, right? So that you can get more money saving for your future. And so it's going to take a little bit to make that adjustment in your budget. If you're 18 and in high school and taking this before you've ever had to go out and get your own apartment, you have a better chance of hitting those guidelines from the start, right? So you're going to have to be kind to yourself and give yourself time to transition. But the most important thing is that you start today and that you start investing what you can. It may only be $50 a month, but start with that. It does make a difference. It makes a difference in the time that you're giving that money to compound.
And just as an encouragement to people, you were talking about how this probably isn't going to go into effect until 2030 for it being in high schools. Until then, do you have hope for that people are getting more access to financial literacy between now and then?
Absolutely. And if you look online, like I do tidbits on financial literacy, not only on my podcast, but on my social media regularly. And as I said, I have been writing a financial literacy class, and I give it for free at churches in my hometown of Lubbock. And by the way, my church has a financial literacy course. I can't remember the name of it now, but check with your churches. Check with the local junior college in your area. Go check with your high school and see if they have an elective that your students can take. And then look online for yourself. There's quite a bit out there. But there's also it's fascinating to me, there's quite a few influencers out there talking about financial literacy. And there's some good tidbits of information to learn. Now, as with anything, you should always do your due diligence, right? So check, listen to something, go verify it. Find a second or third source to verify it always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to shout out one of the people I've been liking recently. Have you heard of Caleb Hammer?
Yes.
Yeah, the one who just yells at people for being bad at finances. Super entertaining show, but as he's doing it, there's also the lessons in there about how much you should save. If you are in debt, what's the best way to get out of it? And realistically talking to people about if you live this kind of lifestyle, you could be debt free in this many years.
Yeah.
And if not, you're looking at like showing people realistically who didn't know, no, if you don't pay out just doing monthly payments on that credit card, you're stuck with this for 20 more years versus 2.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and it's amazing to me how those credit cards have you in that spend cycle forever.
and how people don't even know,
yeah.
like, okay, if I'm just paying minimums, doing my thing, that's
You're not getting out of debt.
decades that you could be in it. Yeah.
Well, and the amount of interest that you will end up paying if you actually look at it will make you sick at your stomach.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the same thing I think about mortgages. Like if you have a 30-year mortgage and even at 7%, I mean, you're going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. Usually it ends up being 2 to 2.5 times the value of your house that you pay in interest over 30 years. One of the things I always recommend to people is, okay, take however much you pay per month. Let's say it's $2,000 that you pay per month for your mortgage. Divide that by 4. So that would be $500, right? Start paying $500 a week. It will end up having you make an extra payment in the year, but it won't feel as rough as you having to write that extra $2,000 check. Because if you get used to paying the $500 a month, you're not going to notice, because there's 52 weeks in the year, right? You're not going to notice that you ended up paying an extra $2,000 because it's just your norm. And so, but you will end up paying an extra $2,000 over the life that year of the loan. And just that extra $2,000 payment, which you need to send it to principal only, could drop the time on your mortgage, on the time on a 30-year mortgage by around 7 years, and can end up shaving off over $100,000 in interest that then can go into your saving and investing. Right. And it's just making that one extra payment. So, and you can do the same thing with credit cards.
So you're teaching me stuff. I need to consider doing that.
Yeah. And you know, once you know that amount, you don't have to pay it every week, but you start saving it every week, right? To then pay and just make sure that you're getting it going. But make sure if you do that, make sure that you mark it to principal only.
Yeah, isn't that so funny? All the little things that you have to do once you're getting into that. But thankfully, again, it's actually all online. So
yeah. Well, and
hopefully
the fun thing
in a few
is,
years.
like, once you start realizing that these tidbits are out there, it almost becomes like a game to try to seek out more. And I mean, that's where I am in my life now. And I tell young people this. I say, I don't watch television. I don't want to see somebody else living their life that most of the time isn't even a real life. There's so much information out there. Like, if you can change yourself to become a lifelong learner, and for sure work on getting your kids to become lifelong learners, there is so much information out there that can impact your life in a really positive way. And by that, I don't mean don't sit around and follow influencers all the time. If you do, make sure that your feed is very specifically directed toward things that are going to be beneficial to you and not just things that are going to waste your time. Read books, seek out information, watch podcasts. I don't listen to the radio except for when I'm on my walks, and usually then I'm still listening to a podcast. And I don't watch television because that's somebody else's life going by the wayside, and it's just distracting me from the amazing things I can do with mine.
So if people want to follow you, learn more about, well, both the direction of education in Texas and financial literacy, where can they find you?
Okay. Well, I have a website. It's ashleybcash.com, and that's CASH. And my Facebook is Ashley B. Cash, and my Instagram is Ashley B. Cash Official. And then I have the Ashley B. Ashley B. Cash podcast. And it's on Apple, Spotify, and it's also on YouTube in a video format.
Yeah, well, everyone definitely subscribe to the podcast. You're on my rotation for my road trip rotation. So that's anytime I'm like having some extra time, it's on rotation. So thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to see where this goes in the direction. Well, we still have a little bit until session, but thank you so much for your work in the meantime. And everyone else, I'll see you next time.